4, 3, 2, 1.
How's it going, PC gamers? It is January 22nd, 2012, and you are listening to episode number 64 of Ironhammers Live, your weekly PC gaming podcast being broadcast live every single Sunday at not 10 o'clock. How many times have I said that now? But get here at 10, please. We've been waiting for ages. What's going on? Anyhow, my name is Bobby Goodin, also known throughout the online realm as Ironhammers, and joining me as ever is good buddy, good co-host, Daniel Natman, hardly Dan. Hello, buddy.
I'm pretty good, man. Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty damn good. That's what I like to hear, man. Yeah, I'm not bad. Not been a bad week at all, to be quite honest. No crazy events happening. Nothing. Obviously, there was the whole Sopa and Peeper thing. That was quite eventful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
How's your week been? Anything exciting?
Not really. SSDD.
SSD, solid state drive.
No, SSDD, same shit, different day.
Oh, fairly. I thought you were talking about the. There's a Korean pop band with a name similar to that. I think it's SNSD. You could have been talking about those.
No.
But of course you weren't. You were talking about same old shit. Kind of how it is, isn't it, man? Kind of how it is. But yeah, we got a few things to talk about this week, guys. Could Steam be coming to Linux? That could be the case. We've got a little affiliation we want to make you guys aware of, and we'll be talking about what I've been up to this week, where there's quite a few things on our little list, so it's probably going to make up the main segment of the show this week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. And then we have an email from our good buddy Steve, JSS Lifelike from thegamesman.com, and to remember always you can send your emails to podcast@ironhammers.org if you'd like to ask us a question or tell us something or tell us that we're shit. I don't know, it could be anything, but send it our way nonetheless, because I don't have enough emails. I really do. Anyhow, we're going to try and get straight into it with this week's PC gaming news. So, I think I'll take the first story this week, Dan.
Righto.
Because it's one that really interests me. It interests you just as much.
Oh, yeah.
You've had me bitching about Microsoft and their operating system before, haven't you, man?
Once or twice.
Could it be there might be a possible way out sometime soon?
That'd be so good.
That would be nice. Steam could be coming to Linux, guys. We've heard it all before. But it sounds kind of real this time, because Valve have put up a job posting which says that they're looking for somebody. First of all, it said they're looking for someone that can manage large clusters of machines running Linux and Windows, which of course I thought immediately, that's just their servers. It's quite usual for servers to be running Linux. But then further down the list of requirements for the job, it says you will need to have the ability to port Windows games to Linux. Sounds interesting, doesn't it, Dan?
Does indeed.
How do you feel about that? Would you be getting straight on Linux if there was a Steam?
Maybe not straight on it, but
No.
it depends on the amount of games that they port.
It certainly does, man. It's not going to be a quick fix to ditch Windows by any means, but
No, but
it's a good
it's
step.
nice to have that option.
Certainly is, man. And I'll be playing it on Linux straight away just to mess about with it and see how it works.
Oh, God.
But I just wish, I think it was Tyler, who's actually in the chat room now, said on Twitter the other day that it is a good idea just to get rid of Windows. If Steam, I don't think he said it was a good idea to get rid of Windows. That wasn't his words exactly. It might be a good idea nonetheless. But if Steam came to Linux, and I was saying, like, if some other developers came to Linux, started making actual versions of games for Linux, then perhaps it could be a good alternative. And I would have no reason whatsoever to ever use Windows ever again, because my daily internet tasks just don't require Windows to be there. I can do it in Linux, but gaming just doesn't happen in Linux. But it does if you want to play a Tux game where you're a penguin sliding down a hill on his belly or something like that. But aside from that kind of stuff, there's not a whole lot of gaming going on. There is like a Quake port or something, which is like, I think they've ripped the Quake files and it's called something else, like Alien Attack or something. But I'd love to see it all happen and all be on Linux. That would be great. I know there's a few people play StarCraft on Linux, and I did think about trying it at some point, but I thought might as well just stick with Windows because I'm not going to be able to ditch it anyway. But yeah, could be that Steam is eventually going to find its way over to Linux, and it's something that I've been thinking it's probably going to happen ever since they released the Mac version, to be fair. Because they both use OpenGL graphics. So in theory, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but surely if they've ported something to the Mac, it should be far easier for them to use it on Linux. I don't know for sure. I'm not quite that technical. I have a bit of knowledge, but I don't know quite that much about porting games from various PC operating systems, which is basically what Mac is now since they use Intel. I think I can get away with calling them expensive PCs, can I not?
I reckon so, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon so. But yeah, it could be happening. It could be good news. But Dan, do you want to take this second story? I don't know if I've thrown you in the deep end there, but...
Yeah, well, as a load of you know, especially if you listened to the last show, we were talking about Soper and Pippa. They've been shelved for the moment. I say for the moment because there's no way they're not going to come back in some form or another.
Exactly.
There's so much money behind it. So many huge companies that, you know, at the first glance seems to have nothing to do with it. Putting so much money behind the governments trying to get them to change. So it's a small victory, but the war isn't over yet.
I couldn't put it better myself, Dan. It's quite I was going to say patriotic, but it's kind of like a patriotism for the internet. If you understand, like, we're one nation on the internet, and we will never surrender. I mean,
it goes against everything that kind of the internet has stood for, and at the moment still does stand for. Free speech and information sharing.
Indeed. So basically, the idea behind putting this story in it was, don't think that you can forget about it. Keep an eye out because there's more stuff on the horizon. No doubt. And it wouldn't be surprising if it came back even worse than what it was to begin with, not better. If they refine it in some sense.
Worded slightly differently.
Yeah, very slightly differently. Meaning exactly the same thing in legalese.
Yeah. But it sounds better.
Yes, it sounds a little bit more innocent. It's not like, we will put you into prison if you put a link to YouTube on your website. Oh, thanks, government. That's awfully kind of you. That sounds perfectly reasonable to me.
Oh, yeah.
There's been some interesting figures flying about the whole blackout day that happened on Wednesday. Of course, we mentioned last week that we would be taking part in that. I had a bit of an issue getting it up and running to start with, but I got it up in the end, guys, and I had it up for 24 hours, so we tried, and I know at least one person sent me a tweet saying, what is all this Soper stuff? And I was like, it worked. If one person found out, and I think her exact words were, they kept that quiet, I hadn't heard about it until today. So if it worked for one person at least, so we kind of did our job. One person.
I've had a couple of people asking me about my Twitter icon being black. So that's helped. Yeah.
Certainly, the message has gotten out there, and apparently there was something like, was it 7 million or it might have been 70 million? I don't know. I can't remember. I'm just pulling these out the top of my head. 7 or 70 million people looked up who their congressperson was in the US on that day.
Fantastic.
So it obviously got the message out somehow, and also there was another number in the millions of how many people signed a petition against it. So on that day, so it seemed to have gotten out there. Apparently Mozilla reached 4 million people or something with their stuff they put up, and all kinds of numbers. I don't know the exact figures, like I say, but there's a fair few people that I think found out about Soper on that day. If not from anything else, from Wikipedia, because I saw lots of people bitching. And I was like, if you're going to bitch at Wikipedia today, then
Yeah.
you've just got it wrong. Just go away. Like, you shouldn't be bitching at Wikipedia. You should be bitching at someone else. Direct your hate towards the people responsible, not Wikipedia. Anyhow, keep an eye out, guys, just in case it comes back. So I'll just carry on.
Oh, just one last quick thing. There was that interesting reply to there was the guys from Mega Upload that got arrested
Yeah, well, we can talk about that.
the other day. Well, it's all kind of related.
It is.
And
It's like
Anonymous,
the next day, it's like, yep, you told us all that Soper and Peeper weren't going to come through, so we're going to start taking down websites nonetheless.
yeah, and Anonymous took so many sites.
You just killed them.
Simple denial of service attack, and they just killed it. What was it? The US government site went down. Loads of sites went down.
There's the US government, the FBI, the MPAA, Motion Pictures Association. Is that what they're called?
Yeah,
and I think Universal site went down. Loads of different media company sites went down.
loads of people that seem to be backing Soper, actually. Funnily enough.
Strangely enough, exactly. And then the next day, somebody hacked the Rock Paper Shotgun forums, which I was a bit pissed about, to be honest. That's not very nice, people. If you've done that, you're not a very nice person. Get off my internet. You're the people that are making Soper happen. But yeah, it seems it got the message out there, and hopefully people will be a bit more aware if it does come back, which it will. It will. But our next news story is a little one about Ubisoft DRM, which kind of came full circle in recent events. It all started off when Dutch hardware site Guru 3D were testing Anno 27, Ubisoft city building type sim type game, and they were testing it on various hardware setups, and they found out that of the 3 activations Ubisoft's DRM gave them, they lost one each time they changed the graphics card, which is not ideal when you've only got 3. Of course, it's not every day that people are going to put 3 graphics cards in a machine in one day, but if you think of it over the lifetime since you've bought a game for full price, it's quite possible that you could use more than one graphics card, considering you've used one activation straight away.
I have actually been known to do that in one day, building a rig.
Yeah, I can imagine it happens, man. I'm not saying that nobody does. I'm just saying, obviously, maybe the general consumer doesn't, but it definitely would happen. But if you look at it over time, it's definitely possible for anybody to encounter that issue. Especially when you start talking about changing other parts of computers as well. I mean, I don't know how sensitive it is. But basically that came about. Rock Paper Shotgun got hold of it. They got in touch with Ubisoft to ask them if it was a bug and if it needed to be fixed. And Ubisoft come back to them and said, no, that's how it's meant to work. But if you happen to use all your 3 activations, just call us up and we'll put some more on there. To which my response on my blog post was, so if it's that easy just to phone you up and to ask for more activations, why do it? Like, what's the point? Like, you're just wasting your own customer support time. You're wasting our time. You're pissing people off. What's the point? I don't know. But then the actual manufacturers of the DRM came out today and said that they'd patched it or something so that if you change something in a PCI slot, it won't affect the activations anymore. So it's kind of been fixed. So even when Ubisoft said that that was how it was meant to work, they didn't even know what they were talking about then either. I don't know. My chair just dropped all by itself. Did you see that, people? I think the gas lift in my chair just broke. I actually think. Can I get it back up? If you're watching the video version, you might have just seen me get even shorter than I already am, which is saying something. But I think I fixed it now, so don't worry. If you listen to the audio version, you just have no idea what's going on. I keep feeling like it's going down now when it's actually not. Like, I'm kind of a bit uneasy. I keep thinking I'm going to end up on the floor. Anyhow, I don't know, Ubisoft's DRM, it seems to get worse and worse every time I hear something about it. The fact that they've kind of fixed it is kind of commendable from the DRM manufacturer themselves. But there was an interesting thing in an interview from Paradox, which I think was on GameSpy, the CEO of Paradox Interactive. And I think the quote from him was that DRM just doesn't make sense. They don't have DRM on their games, but sometimes they use Steam and stuff. And I think he outright said that DRM doesn't make sense, especially if it's like Ubisoft's. Yeah, that was quite an interview. You should go and search that up if you haven't read it. Definitely showing how PC-focused Paradox are, and probably why you should check them out and support their games. Because they've got some pretty cool stuff coming, actually, that I've seen. And, yeah, I don't know about Ubisoft. Let them get on with it. I'm not too bothered, to be quite honest. Although I saw another news story that they were actually the top selling publisher in the UK for 2011 across all platforms, obviously not PC, but I don't know, perhaps they should stick to all platforms and forget about a single one that we care about, because I wouldn't be too bothered, to be quite honest. I'm trying to think of an Ubisoft game that I'd miss. I'm struggling.
No, I can't think of any.
I really can't. Anybody in the chat room want to make a suggestion there? An Ubisoft game that you couldn't live without? I can't think of one at the moment. Anyhow, final news story is a bit of a Ironhammers centric news story. Not so much about the world of PC gaming, but it's about the world of Ironhammers, so we thought we'd share it with you. It's a bit of self-promotion in a way, but we have joined an affiliation scheme with Green Man Gaming, who are a UK-based digital distributor. You probably have heard of them. I know that a few people in the chat room, like Tyler, have definitely heard of them, and I know they've bought from them several times. They're based in the UK, always good to support them. And basically we signed an affiliate deal, so if you buy stuff from them and buy it through our link, not only does it show them that we're sending people their way and help us out, it helps them out and it helps everybody out. It makes us all happy. So if you do happen to buy something from Green Man Gaming, use the link gmg.ironhammers.org and it will take you through one of our tracking links so that they know you came from us, and everyone will be happy, including you, because you get yourself a good game for quite cheap. And a lot of their stuff is Steam stuff, and it will activate on Steam, so it's kind of like you bought it off Steam, and sometimes it's even cheaper if you buy it from over there. They just give you a code to put in. But they've also got a deal going on throughout January, which is 25% off all pre-orders, and basically you just have to put in a little voucher code. Of course, use the gmg.ironhammers.org link that I just mentioned. I'll type it into the chat room for you guys. The code is customer loyalty, but it has a dash after every fifth letter. So it says Custo dash Merlo dash Yalti. Do you get that? It's in the chat room if you're listening live. If not, you've missed out. I'm sure you can understand what I mean. Customer loyalty, put a dash after every fifth letter, and you can get 25% off all pre-orders at Green Man Gaming. And the first one that I looked at was Mass Effect 3, and it came out about £26, I think, if you bought it on there.
Damn tempting.
Not bad at all, really. 25% off. It's a quarter of the price, man. It's not like you're not saving much money, you know. 25%, it's a fair chunk. But I think that code will run throughout to the end of January, which is another week or so, to check it out. And like I say, use that link, show them we're sending people their way. I know a few people have been clicking it already, the banners on the site and stuff. We've put some up, so I've been watching very carefully to see if anybody's going through it, and they are, so it's all good. But that's the end of our news for this week. I'm sure there's probably some other stuff we could have spoken about, but we're going to take a very short break, guys, and when we come back we'll be talking about what we've been up to this week. Quite a few little things to mention, isn't there? All sorts of random stuff. As we said last week, it's not what we've been playing anymore, it's what we've been up to. We're just going to spout shit about what we've been doing. If you don't like it, don't listen. Fast forward it or something. I don't know. I'm sure you can enjoy it. Everyone says how much they like listening to us talking shit before we start the show, so why not incorporate it into the show?
Exactly.
That wasn't my thinking, but I'll use it. I'll use it. We'll be right back, guys. See you in a sec. Welcome back, people. As Dan just said in the chat room, Bobby had a bit of an accident. He's laughing at me over there on Skype. And I was drinking from this here can of Monster Energy drink, and as I took it away from my mouth, it somehow hit the bottom of the can, came back up, came out of the hole in the top of the can, and went all over my glasses and all in my right eye. And I'll tell you what, I don't know, well, you can see what the ingredients are if you really want to. You can't, it doesn't focus on that. But it fucking hurts if you get Monster Energy drink in your eyes. Just let me tell you that much. It's not a very pleasant experience. But we're back. I'm going to have another swig of it now because the last swig went all over my face. And I nearly fucking done it again. I actually nearly done it again. Wow. I don't know. Maybe I should give up on that stuff. Maybe it's too much of it. This made me so hyperactive that I'm moving the can way faster than I ever should. Who knows?
You have to get yourself some goggles.
Yeah, I will have to get some different glasses or a pair of like school science lesson safety glasses, because it's what can fit over the top of my actual glasses. Maybe I should get a pair of them just for when I'm podcasting. You'd think working in audio you would need ear protection, but apparently not. You need eye protection. It's all over my face, man. It's sticky as anything. It's not very pleasant at all. It's really not. Endiaki says that's what I get for drinking that shite. I drink it because they support Evil Geniuses. They're a sponsor, and they're my favourite pro gaming team. So there, yeah, look at me voting with my wallet, as we always say we should. Anyhow, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing this week, aside from pouring energy drink into our eye sockets. And I had quite an event, Dan, this week.
Yeah, so I heard. You've been voting with your wallet.
Yeah, believe it or not, I have. I buy Monster Energy, not that. I actually spent some money in a free-to-play game for the first time ever. And you can probably guess what game that was. It was, of course, Lord of the Rings Online. So I bought just £5 worth of turbine points. I started off, you know how it is with these addiction things. They kind of come on gradually, and before you know it, you're in deeper than ever. And you're pouring it in your eyeballs, and you just can't get enough of it. But
they offer it to you for free, and then you're hooked.
Yeah, that's what it was. That first free sample of Monster Energy drink, and then you'll never be the same again. But I spent some money on Lord of the Rings Online, and if anything, I think Turbine deserved a little bit of my cash by now, because I spent many hours in that game, leveling up 2 different characters. And I'm thinking about starting a 3rd, but I don't think I'll do that just yet. Let me just play with the 2 for now. That's enough. I've got a healer and a champion, a minstrel and a champion. Both of the... I noticed I have like the opposite to an inferiority complex, Dan. Because both of my characters on Lord of the Rings, one is a dwarf and one is a hobbit. And now, if you've ever met me in person, as Dan has, I'm a fucking short ass. And it's like, you would imagine that perhaps I could have an inferiority complex and I want to play as like a fucking giant or something. But it's the complete opposite. It's like, yeah, I'm small and I'll still fuck you up, don't worry. It's alright. So I've got a hobbit minstrel and a dwarf champion. But yeah, I spent some money and bought some turbine points. I thought it was quite an event. I've always been a bit sceptical about free-to-play games and actually spending money on them. And I think it's something that many people would think about free-to-play games, is how much can you really get for free and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people sometimes think that the game is going to be of a lesser quality because it's free-to-play. And since playing Lord of the Rings Online, I've kind of come to prove to myself that that's not necessarily the case. The same with things like League of Legends as well. They're still great games, and the amount of hours I've played, they're definitely deserving of my £5. I got some new quests. I bought a new quest pack. It unlocked a few new instances that I can do in a raid, and it's given me a whole lot more fun to have in the game. So it's all good. It's all good. I'm quite happy with what I bought, actually. The only thing is, once you've bought it once, it's really easy to do it again. And I needed to raise 95 turbine points to be able to get a mount for my second character, and although I was about 30 turbine points off it, I was kind of thinking, should I just buy him? But yeah, now my eyes are watering for a different reason, because the back of my throat is dry as a nun's you know what. So excuse me for a moment while I cough my guts up. And I'm not crying because Lord of the Rings has taken on my money. It's a different reason at all. But Dan, another surprising event from you. What have you been at?
I've played the multiplayer of Modern Warfare 3 for the first time.
How did you find it?
Yeah, it was Modern Warfare.
It was Modern Warfare.
Right.
Did it
maps are
feel
quite
an awful
cool.
lot like Modern Warfare 2?
Yeah, it looks a hell of a lot. It's using the same engine, so it looks incredibly like Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 1 for that matter. But it's it's more of the same. They've little changes in there with the perks. You can now have it so your perks, your kills with your perks increase if you're really shit at it like me. So
Yeah, they've got like a death streak kind of as well as a kill streak sort of.
yeah, you got the old death streak back, and I'd get lots of them. I was very, very drunk when I was playing it, so
You don't need to make any excuses here, Dan. We can
And
all
it
admit that we
felt so weird
sometimes
because
suck.
I've not played my 360 much at all, and it felt so weird holding that controller again.
It's quite
And
a
trying to play a game with it. It was like,
It's
it
a
doesn't
terrifying
feel right.
experience, Dan, especially with
Yeah.
an FPS. It's like, what's going on?
So, this is so slow. Put the sensitivity right the way up, and that didn't help.
That's what I do, and it tends to just make it worse. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't turn 360 degrees within the sake of within the time of 30 seconds. Like, I need to put that sensitivity up, and then you just find yourself swaying backwards and forwards trying to shoot people, and bullets are spraying everywhere, and it's quite a horrible experience actually.
Yeah,
But-
so I don't know. Someone needs to come up with some kind of 360 USB hub that allows you to use a keyboard and mouse. That would be awesome.
Which they have done. It's called an FPS, and apparently there's an awful lot of input lag when you use it, so it's not really a solution, but it works. And it actually, obviously ports your mouse and keyboard into thinking it's a controller, so it still feels shit.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't used it. That's not personal experience. It's not like a review or anything, guys. But I'm going on from what I've heard. But yeah, a couple of surprising events. Dan's playing Modern Warfare. I'm spending money on free-to-play games. But here's something a little bit more down to earth, I guess. We both had a little play of the Kingdoms of Amalur demo, didn't we, Dan?
We did indeed.
And I was actually quite happy that in the opening cutscene, the narrator uses the word Amalur. So I knew how to pronounce it on the show tonight. Which was very handy indeed, because I didn't know. But share your experience of it, Dan, because I think mine was rather different to yours.
Well, when I first started playing it, we've got the narrator at the beginning. It just reminded me of the Lord of the Rings so much.
It was a little bit like that.
The setup's kind of similar as well. But then I started playing it, and all I could think of was Fable. It just reminded me so much of the Fable series.
Really?
Yeah, it really did. It's just as easy to play as something like Fable. It's it's not hard at all. It's typical controls, really.
Did you play it with a controller, or did you play it with a mouse and keyboard?
Mouse and keyboard.
You did? Because
Yeah.
I think it was Tyler was telling me it seems to feel a bit better with a control pad, that one.
Oh well,
We're not going
felt
back on what
fine
we
with-
just said. It's not a first-person shooter. It's alright.
Yeah, it felt fine with the keyboard and mouse. Yeah, it. I might have to actually buy it. It runs perfectly on my rig, even though it's quite a pathetic machine. Really liked it, but there are a lot of things they've picked from different games. There's a whole kind of Lord of the Rings feel. There's definitely a Fable feel to it as well.
They've got the mouse cursor from World of Warcraft and the font
Yeah.
from Dragon Age Origins. I noticed those.
Yeah, and it's not really doing anything new. But it's a nice package.
But see, look, I haven't got onto my experience yet, but to you, does it feel like it's telling a nice story? Because the intro cutscene, which you'll find out in a minute, it was about as far as I got. It sounded quite intriguing from a storyline point of view.
Yeah, it does seem quite good. I mean, basically, you've been resurrected, but your previous memory's completely gone. And you're part of this experiment. They've finally managed to resurrect the soul of someone that's died and grow a body for them, which is kind of new. I've not come across that before in a game. And I haven't really got a huge amount into the story, but it's quite fun. Definitely quite fun.
Yeah. So do you want me to share my experience, Dan?
Yeah, go on then.
So I downloaded it, right, as you do, off Steam, and I clicked on play and I started playing it. And the opening, I adjusted my resolution because it picked a resolution I've never seen before in my life. I don't know where that came from, but it did. So I adjusted it to the right resolution, and I clicked on play story mode, as you do. And the opening cutscene started, and it looked quite fun. There was a lot of swordy, stabby, heads being cut off, stuff going on. And I was thinking, you know, this looks quite good. And the graphical style of it is kind of like cartoony in a way. I quite like the look of it as well. It looks nice. It has got a bit of a World of Warcraft twist on it. The visuals, from what I could see, although I didn't see all that much, as I'm about to get to. And the cutscene at the beginning was split into 2 parts. There was the first part, and then it asked you to pick like a race and stuff and a name for your character. Yeah. So I did that, and I picked the kind of like, looked a bit like a clansman from like the Highlands in Scotland back in medieval times. A bit like a Bravehearty type character, if you will. I don't remember what the race was, but then the second part of the cutscene afterwards started, and it was just pure black. Now, I don't know if that was meant to be right or not, but I don't think it was. It was just completely black. And at first, I thought it was a kind of, I've died. I understood that I had died and that I was being resurrected. And I thought, perhaps it's black to start with, and the veil's going to be lifted, kind of, you know. And it stayed black. And I thought, if this is a kind of like visual stunt, they're kind of pushing it a bit far with the blackness. You know, like, I could understand for a brief moment, and then it all comes to life, but it remained black. And then it got to the first mission where you can start running around, which comes at the end of that cutscene, which had been all black, and it was all black. But I was slightly confused because the first quest was called Out of the Darkness, right? So you can kind of see where I was getting a little bit confused. I was like, is it supposed to be all black? Because I could see the UI on top of the black, right? I could see the mini map, and I could see my skills and stuff. But the background was just black, and I thought Soper had gone a lot further than I ever thought possible for a moment. But then I thought perhaps it's meant to be black because the mission is called Out of the Darkness. It certainly looks pretty fucking dark at this moment in time, and so I managed to navigate by using nothing but the mini map to the quest marker for the quest that I was doing, where I found a sword. And I had to equip the sword, and a little help box came up over the UI on top of the black screen to say press F or whatever it was to equip your sword. So I equipped the sword, and it comes up with a picture of your character, as you would expect. And I equipped the sword, and I was like, right, I've got my sword. Now I pressed escape to exit the equip inventory type stuff. And now, instead of being black, the inventory stayed up with the UI on top of it still. So I could still see the mini-map, and I could still see all the stuff, but the black screen had been replaced with my inventory, and no matter how much I escaped to get out of it, the inventory remained, and I could still run around by just using purely the mini-map, and it was kind of like playing GTA 1, like looking down on a little arrow on the map or something. I soon realised that coming out of the darkness seemed to be a lot harder than I thought the introductory quest to a game should ever be. And I gave up. Hopefully I can reboot it later. See, I did this about 2 hours before we started. I didn't really have the time. I'm sure if I fuck about with it and have a little play, I can get it to work as it's designed to.
Perhaps play it in that dodgy resolution.
Perhaps that's the key. Perhaps 1742 by 11.912 pixels is the resolution that it's designed for. It wasn't those numbers, guys, but I just made them up. You probably noticed. But it was a weird number for sure. But yeah, that was my experience with it, man. So it was quite disappointing actually, because the intro scene was actually getting me quite into it, and I was thinking, you know what, I could like this. It's looking like it's going to tell me a nice story. From what I'd heard, the gameplay wasn't too taxing,
the combat's really nice.
I didn't get to find that out. But yeah, I was quite looking forward to it. Someone in the chat says, what are we talking about? We're talking about Kingdoms of Amalur demo, as Dan's very kindly typed into the chat box there. You're too good, Dan. You are too good. But yeah, it didn't want to work on that try. Like I say, I'm going to reset and do the stuff that you do to try and make it work next time. Hopefully it will. Hopefully it's not
a
Linux bug with my try it in Linux, Steam for Linux. Let's get that shit going. Let's get it going. Do it now. Crawl says wait in the chat room. What was your problem? My problem was that the actual image of the game, the 3D rendering of the world, wasn't there. It was just a black screen, but I had the UI on top. I had the minimap, I had the skill bar, I had the tips and hints and all that jazz coming up. Even the subtitles, the subtitles were also coming up. But the actual world and the character and whatever, I don't know what was there. Dan kindly sent me a screenshot so I could see what I was meant to have seen, but it was just black. Crawl says there are fix. I'm sure there is a fix. Like I said, I haven't had time to research it yet, but I thought it'd make a nice little story. So we'll move on. If Crawl in the chat can link me up to the fix, that's cool, because I will check it out later. And next week I'll probably give you a bit of a better story on how I found the demo. I don't know. Do you know when the release date for this game is, Dan?
I haven't the foggiest.
Oh, yeah, it should be
I
soon.
probably should have researched that.
Yeah, I should have too, because I don't know when it's actually coming out. Because I think I might have to play it. The chat room's deleting links, so Crawl's going to have to link me up in Steam or something, which I'm not signed into at the moment. But I'm sure I can find a fix. I know how to use Google. And yeah, that was my experience. But are you kind of intrigued to play more of it, Dan? Do you think you might pick up the full game, or?
I think it might have to wait until a Steam sale.
Yeah.
Except it's not going to be on Steam, is it? Or
No,
is
it's
it?
on Steam. It's on Steam.
All right. Yeah.
See, this was something else that I
wait for
discussed
sale.
with Tyler as well, because it was on Steam, the demo, and the game is on Steam to pre-order, and I was kind of like, oh, and we've got a date in the chat room, 2/7/12. Now I'm imagining that in real terms, as we are in the UK, it's not the 2nd of July, probably the 7th of February, which is 3 days before my birthday. If anybody out there wants to buy me something, but yeah, I might have to check it out. It is on Steam, and my instant assumption was, okay, so EA are not putting their games on Steam anymore, and suddenly they've got a new IP that they want to promote, and it's all of a sudden on Steam. How convenient. But Tyler kindly let me know that it's not EA who are doing the publishing for the digital version, and apparently they had a bit of a barney with EA about the whole Origin thing and all that, but they've managed to get it on Steam, although it was a pretty tough time doing so. So that's why it's on Steam. It's not EA some sort of marketing scam, although it probably still is. It probably is. I don't know.
Probably get some free content if you get it from Origin or something.
Yeah, I'll probably be done for slander when they hear that. But you do get, if you play the demo, you do get some pretty cool armour to use in Mass Effect 3 when it comes out, which won't be on Steam, by the way.
Nah.
Because that's already established. That's not the reason. That's not the reason. It's really not the reason, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I've just had a look. It is February the 7th it's coming out.
It is February the 7th, yeah. I thought so. Goddamn Americans putting everything backwards. I don't know. Moving on, Dan. What else you've been up to this week? Apparently you found a great new app for your phone.
Yeah, well, you
is this the
actually
one you told me about
mentioned it last
before,
week.
which was for lazy people?
It's no, well, there's that one, but no, the Ironhammers app. Been having a lot of fun playing around with that.
I see what you did there, Dan.
Yeah. Great little app. It doesn't work so well in landscape mode. It looks a bit stretched on my screen.
Oh,
but,
I haven't tried that, to be honest.
it's really good. Well worth picking it up. And if you do pick it up, give it a review, eh?
Good one. Good one. That's what you need to do. Yep, that is of course the Ironhammers app for Android, which is now on the store. Which I think both Tyler and Diaki in the chat room have both checked out. Buddy Sebianoti over on Twitter very kindly made it for us free of charge and put it up on the marketplace. We mentioned it briefly last week, and by the end of that night, actually, it was on there. I was saying I didn't know how long the approval process would take, and it seems that Google are fucking on top of it. So it's on there now. Just search for Ironhammers. You can even just search for PC gaming. I think we're the 3rd or 4th one down if you search PC gaming in the market on Android. Check it out. It's got all our latest news posts and everything. It's kind of just like a mobile version of the website, Dan.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, with links to all the YouTube feeds and everything you've tweeted.
It's basically all of our content shoved into one app, which is not
Nice
bad
little
going, I don't think.
hub for Ironhammers.
It certainly is. So check it out if you're on Android. I would like to get an iOS one out there as well, but this was done voluntarily by somebody. I don't know how to code apps for things, so I don't know. If somebody wants to make an iOS one, then go right ahead, but I ain't able to do it. But yeah, check it out, guys. So another thing I've been playing this week, you might have seen my review on the site, Unstoppable Gorg by Futuremark. I briefly mentioned it last week. New tower defense game. It's quite a lot of fun, actually. It's quite funny. It's all based around like 1960s UFO movies and stories and stuff. There's all little silver flying saucers about, and you've got a base which has several orbits around it, and you place your towers on the orbits. And the interesting mechanic is that once you've placed them on the orbit, you can then spin the orbit around to reposition your towers, which kind of brings something new to tower defense, being able to move stuff. But the funny thing is, because they're on a circular orbit, if you move one, then anything else on that orbit moves as well, so it kind of gets a bit tricky. You're like, that one needs to be there, but then this one moves there, and I don't know which one to move where, and it's quite fun. It's $9.99 on Steam. I'm not sure what the actual UK price is, to be honest. And I think there's 10% off at the moment for the first week of launch. It launched on Thursday, so perhaps go check that out. I gave it a 4 out of 5 in my review. I had good fun with it. There was a couple of things that bugged me. One was that the iOS version is exactly the same, but it's half the price. But I explained in a video. I made a video on YouTube which has got a bit of gameplay if you want to check that out. And I mentioned that, but you can imagine somebody trying to sell an iOS game for $10, like nobody's going to buy it, so I can kind of understand it. But then should we be exploited to spend $9? I don't know.
Well,
but
I've just looked it up. It's 10% off, and it's £6.27 on Steam.
£6.27 on Steam, and I think it's worth that. I definitely think it's worth that. I had good fun with it. Some of the little videos in between, they're all black and white, like live action videos, and there's the leader of the Gorg, who are the alien army, and he's kind of got this really bad outfit on as he's being filmed, and you can see his mouth moving behind the mask, and it's just good fun. It's funny. It's a nice little time waster. There's quite a bit of content in there. The other thing that I complained about in my review was that although it's like a Steam game, like it's exclusively on Steam, there wasn't any Steam leaderboards in there, which I thought on a tower defense game is a kind of nice little thing to have. It would have been nice to see. But I have been in touch with FutureMark, and they told me that they had plans to have Steam leaderboards at launch, but it bugged out somewhere during the beta stage, so they had to take it out to be able to make a launch date, and that they are planning to patch it in as soon as possible. So Steam leaderboards should be in there in the future, which is nice. Shame they're not there now though. Still a shame. I'm not completely letting them off for it, but I gave it a 4 out of 5. It seems to be in line with all the other reviews. If you're into tower defense, it's definitely something different, so check it out. It's good fun. And I think it's coming out to XBLA sometime later this year, so if you're an Xbox guy, which I know NDRK in the chat is, perhaps hold out for that one. Although I don't know if he was the same guy that said, "You used 2 of my worst words in gaming ever, tower defense." Somebody said that to me on Twitter. They were like, "Is it good?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a good tower defense game." "Oh no, you mentioned tower defense, you are doomed." But Unstoppable Gorg by FutureMark Game Studios, I quite enjoyed it. What I didn't enjoy was when I had the pre-release beta, obviously, to do my review, and then when the full version came out, it wiped all my content. So I had everything unlocked, and then it just lost it all again. And it didn't let me earn Steam achievements either in the pre-release version. So I was like, looks like I've never actually played it if you look at my Steam account. But yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. Dan, the next thing on your list of what you've been up to this week doesn't sound like quite so much fun as Unstoppable Gorg.
No, it wasn't really. I basically had to drive a round trip of 108 miles for a blood test.
That's ridiculous, man. That really is ridiculous. I know you've told me you had to do it before as well.
Yeah.
What is the reason for that? Is there no needles in your vicinity, or?
Basically, they don't have the department I need to go to in my local hospital, which is like 10 miles down the road. So I have to drive to Plymouth, which takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on traffic. So that was fine. Then half an hour to park at a hospital.
Shit.
That was ridiculous.
And probably about half of what was in your wallet to pay for the car park as well.
Oh, well, I got that back. But I spent like 3 minutes seeing the doctor and 2 minutes having the blood test, and then I was back in the car driving for nearly 2.5 hours to get home. That was a really fun day. Are they not able to transport blood from your local doctor or something? I have no idea. It's probably cost some more. Too much.
Yeah, it doesn't cost your petrol then, does it, if they do it for you?
Yeah, no, exactly.
I guess. So yeah, you American guys that talk about our health system as if we've got something special, I'm not so sure we have. If you live in a big town like me, you're probably alright, because you just get around the corner and you'll be fine.
It was, it was a nice, pleasant day to myself, though, which I don't often get.
I guess there could be something nice in driving 108 miles.
Yeah. Playing with my phone, listening to internet radio whilst I'm driving.
Were you using TuneIn radio then?
No, it was indeed. Fantastic little app.
It is a nice little app. There's a radio station on there from America called Rock 95 or something. I think it's like a small local rock station, but they put some really fucking good music on there.
Yeah, I've listened to that.
Although the adverts are like non-fucking stop, man. I thought like Planet Rock, the UK rock radio station, was bad for adverts, but this was ridiculous. Like they were playing them over the top of the music and all sorts. It was pretty crazy. And your advertisement guys are way too enthusiastic over there, American people. Like they're getting far too excited about the product they're advertising. But that's probably a different subject for a different day.
Possibly even a different show.
Possibly even a different show. Perhaps one week we'll have a topic of the week, which is American advertisement voiceover artists are far too enthusiastic about what they're saying. But anyhow, guys, we're going to take a very short break now. When we come back, we've got one email this week, and that will be the end of the show. So we'll be right back. See you in a sec. Hey people, welcome back. As I just said, we've just got a quick email to get through, and that will be the end of the show. And I'm going to go and make good use straight afterwards of that £5 that I mentioned earlier that I spent on Lord of the Rings Online. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. So we had one email this week, and like I say always, you can always send your emails over to podcast@ironhammers.org. We would like to have more of them. This one comes from our good buddy JSS Lifelight, also known as Steve Conger from thegamesman.com. Go and check that out. I think Dan's doing a show with them tomorrow, aren't you, Dan?
Yeah, I recorded one. Not sure when it'll be up yet.
You have recorded it? The Final Fantasy one, is that?
No, yeah, we're going to record it tomorrow. So.
Oh, you're recording it tomorrow. I get it.
Yeah.
I thought you said you've recorded it. I was like,
no.
I thought you were doing that tomorrow. So, yeah. So you might want to check that out. They're going to be recapping Final Fantasy 13 in anticipation of Final Fantasy 13-2. Is that what it's called?
Yes, I think so.
I don't know. I'm not up on all this console malarkey. But anyway, Steve says, hey, remember me? Yes, we do. How could we forget you? He said, like it's been that long since I've dropped you a line, and I forgot to put the camera on, so welcome back. Hey, see my pretty face. And he says, so, do you recall my HTPC setup for a couple of shows ago? I think he meant from a couple of shows ago. Well, all is well, except for one little thing. One little thing that is driving me up the wall in capital letters. And then he says, my GTS 450, oh, that's supposed to be in capital letters, seems to be passing 2-channel audio through the HDMI connection to my receiver. Yeah, I realised that I can pop it into virtual surround, which is what I've been doing, but I'd love to see the AC3 notification and a tiny double D. I don't think tiny and double D go together, man. Double D symbol on the front. I'm just hoping that it's not some stupid out of the way checkbox that I'm missing. Any thoughts? Anyway, thanks again, and loving the show and PC gaming. Good man, Steve JSS Lifelike. So, we've got a couple of possible options here. My immediate research when I looked it up was a whole bunch of people that had exactly the same problem when they were running HDMI out from their graphics card into some sort of receiver to enable them to use surround sound. And the problem was that the EDID, which is something identification, I would imagine. I didn't look up what it meant, but it ends in ID.
Electronic device identification.
Thank you, Dan. And the EDID of the device is telling the graphics card that it only has 2 speakers, which is the television, because of the pass-through where it's going through the receiver by HDMI and then into the TV. So it thinks it only has 2 speakers and therefore only allows you to use 2-channel audio. And unbelievably, it wasn't HDCP when I looked at it. Nasiro, who's saying that in the chat room, HDCP is a bitch. Fucking pirates. It's all their fault, man. It's all their fault. But the solution I came to was a message from somebody on the Nvidia forums, from an Nvidia representative, saying that there was no way around it, basically, unless you use a different sound card or use an optical out to connect it, and that basically the quick solution is for the TV to work differently, which they're not going to be able to change, and there was hopefully some way they could patch it in and make an option available so that you could do it, although they didn't have any immediate plans to actually do that. So it seems to me as though Steve was pretty much out of luck, but then Dan stumbled across something else which could be a solution. I think there may have been an update since the post I read.
Yeah, there's something on the Nvidia forums saying there's driver release 260, which should sort that out. And someone else saying that all you've got to go through is bring up playback devices, click on HDMI and then the configure button, and it should allow you to select 7.1. Whether or not that's going to work, I'm sure Steve's tried that. He's not a buffoon.
No, I think he probably would have tried that, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're not on version 260 of the drivers, maybe check that out. Although I'm sure he's probably tried that as well, to be fair.
Yeah. The other way is, if you've got an optical output and you can bypass it and use that, then that's probably the way to go.
That is the other way. Yeah, because HDMI never works as intended. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, but
it works perfectly for me.
It would work perfectly for you, Dan. It would work perfectly for you. You are the voice of contradiction.
Even my internet, when it says I have no internet connection, works.
Yeah, there was a screenshot that Dan sent me earlier. I was talking to him on Skype. I was seeing his video from Skype, and his network settings in Windows told him that he was disconnected from the internet. And our conversation was continuing perfectly well.
Yeah, so it's still saying that I have no connection.
It still says you're not connected to the internet. So, as I said to Dan earlier, there's some sort of voodoo going on in Skype. I don't know what it is. But that email was the only one for this week, so that just about brings us to the end of this week's show. Dan,
yes.
If you had one shout out you could make this week, who would it be to?
It would be to... Oh, I've forgotten his name.
Look it up. Look it up.
It's my mate James on Twitter. He's at JTANSLE. He tweets loads about Android devices. He's a good chap. He's follow him. If you've got an Android device, it's well worth following him. He's really in the know.
And what if people want to follow you, Dan?
Yeah, they just got to put hardly down into just about anything, and I'll probably pop up.
Certainly should. Certainly should. And if you'd like to follow me, I am of course at Ironhammers on Twitter. It's the place to go to follow people these days. We've got Facebooks, we've got everything else. But it's all about the Twitter, really, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah.
Although I'm waiting for the day when it becomes all about the Google Plus, because I fucking love that shit. There's just not anybody on it yet. Although Google said earlier this week they've got 90 million users so far, but I don't think they're actually using it.
No, I think they're doing what I've done, which is just sign up and then completely forget it exists.
Sign up for a Google profile years ago before Google Plus came about, which automatically opted you into Google Plus. And but I love Google Plus. You can find me on there. Just search for Bobby Gooden because there's no short link. It seems impossible to do. But yeah, if I had to shout out one person this week, Dan, I'm trying to think who it would be. I want to make it worthy. I want to make it something good. And I am going to shout out... Can I cheat and have two? Yeah, I can, because it's my show. I always do. Firstly, I'll shout out Green Man Gaming, as I mentioned earlier on in the show. If you want to help us out and help them out, use our little tracking link, which is gmg.ironhammers.org. Check out all that cool stuff they got over there. Lots of cool games at good prices, sometimes cheaper than Steam, even though they activate on Steam. So check that out. And I'll shout out SDMS Baby, my lovely girlfriend who's in the chat room. She wants me to shout her out. So I've now gone to 3. Alright? This whole one shout out isn't working, is it, Dan?
No,
it works for you.
It is for me.
Yeah, you're pretty good at it. The other person I want to shout out is somebody that I can't remember who they are. His name is Zachary Johnson, I believe. And he's the developer of a little browser game called Legend of Equip Pants that Dan spoke about on last week's show. Now, I had quite a bit of fun with that afterwards, and it's so fun to play. Like Dan said it last week, and I'm saying it again here. Definitely go check it out. There's some cool music. It takes about 10 minutes. It's fun, and you can follow him. He is at Zachary Johnson, which is ZACHARY JOHNSON. Go and follow him. He's a developer of games on web and mobile, and he does different kind of things. He's a programming kind of guy, you know the sort. And he does some cool stuff. He made that game and it was well fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So go follow him as well.
Fantastic little game.
It is. It's great fun. So simple and so fun. And the guy's got a sense of humour that just like clicked with me. I did thoroughly enjoy it. So I even to the point where I wrote a blog post about it because I was so... I don't write about browser games all that often, as you probably might have known, but I did because I had so much fun with it. So on that note, I think that brings us to the end of the show. So big thanks to everyone that came along to listen live. You got here in the end, that's the main thing. We were on time this week, but nobody was here because they always expect us to be late.
Yeah.
So we had to wait a little while for people to show up, and they've all come rolling in now. But yeah, 10 o'clock next week, me and Dan will be ready. So be here, 10 o'clock UK time, 11 o'clock Central European time, and 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I'm sure if you're in the US, you can work it out from EST. So 5 PM. I know on Twitch TV it says 6 PM. That is wrong. That is wrong. It's 5 PM in the US on the East Coast. So that time next Sunday, be here and we'll be ready to do a show. I promise we'll be ready. I hope we'll be ready. And I will try not to put energy drink into my eye socket, which I think is going to have to be the title of this week's show. You reckon, Dan?
Yeah.
Somebody think of a good way to put it, like Monster Energy or Energizing with an EYE for the eyesing part. I don't know. I'll try and think up something which is probably not funny to anybody else apart from me. No one will know what it means until they listen to the show. But hopefully they'll get to the part where we come back from a break and I'm screaming in pain with Monster Energy drink in my eye, and they will know exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the show when they read that title. So, on that note, cheers for coming, Dan.
No worries, man.
And cheers to everyone else who's listening, whether it be recorded on YouTube. They're all on YouTube now, by the way. Every week they go straight up onto YouTube in video format. So sometimes when we show you cool things, then maybe you should watch that version. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And we fixed our stream this week by the seams of it, Dan. I had a fiddle about with all the streaming settings. I was adjusting bit rates and buffers and VBVs, and I didn't even know what half of the stuff was. But it seems to be streaming just fine. So guys, we'll see you all next week. Bye bye!